All rise for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No comment. Thanks. Thanks. Okay. Welcome everyone to the December 12th board meeting here. So, we always start this out with the employee of the month. This month we have it's Pat Letterman, who's the deputy treasurer. It's voted on. She works in the village clerk office. She was hired July 25th, 2008. It was a good day for you, Steve, right, Steve?
That it was. Still is.
That's right. Let me just read what Steve wrote about her. Pat has been and continues to be a great asset to the village. She handles a tremendous volume of invoices on top of all the various payroll contracts, manages all of our utilities. She never turns down a challenge. Is always reaching out to lend assistance in any area of the village clerk operations, including health insurance and beach permits. As deputy treasurer, she is always looking for ways to cut costs. Is very, very effective in doing so. And dealing with all the above, she still walks around with this big smile on her face. Congratulations, Pat. And that is very true. She's a pleasure to be around. So very fortunate to have her, and congratulations, Pat. So we have a public comment. We have anybody who's signed up for public comment. We have nobody signed up. Anybody in the audience would like to make comment in public? We do have a continuation of a public hearing, which is to be done. But okay, since no public comment, we're going to go to, we have no board presentations. We have a continuation of the Village Latch and rezoning public hearing. Anybody from, yeah, me.
Hi, good evening. Nika Strunk, 37 Windmill Lane, for the applicant. I just wanted to make a few comments to sort of recap what's happened and where we stand, and hopefully how we're going to go forward. I did want to say that the Planning Commission is also, as you know, I'm sure, reviewing this application simultaneously, and they had a hearing, their second public hearing on this application last week, and they indicated an interest in reviewing some of the specifics of the motel business zoning district. I don't know if anyone has from the Planning Commission has connected with you or not, but Paul Travis said that he would get in touch with Rick and the mayor to coordinate their review, and they also said that they were ready to send the application to the environmental consultant, Chick Voorhees, and it seems like that should be probably done together with the Board of Trustees. It doesn't seem to make sense to have two separate environmental review process for this. So as far as the environmental review, I know we spoke last time about the how to do that, and Richard Warren could not be here this evening, but I did speak to him about it. And both he and I and the owners are aware that there's going to be a significant amount of environmental review necessary for this project, and we've heard comments from the public, identifying some issues. I know traffic is an issue that's going to have to be addressed, and probably there are some others. But what Rich suggested, and what I wanted to suggest to the board, is that at this point, can the application be referred to the consultant to lay out the scope of what exactly we need to report on? And as far as closing or leaving open the public hearing, that's obviously whatever you want to do about that. But we'd like to sort of get a scope so that we know what we need to be reporting about. And I think at this point, this is the third or fourth public hearing, and probably most of the issues have come up by this time, so I think it would make sense at this time to do that. I wanted to make a couple of sort of brief points about some issues that have been raised, and one of which being density, and I know that there has been whether it's an objection but a comment from the Southampton Inn about the question of density And I think you have to bear in mind that the Southampton Inn has 90 units on 3.4 acres, which means that it has 1 unit per 1,689 square feet. Now, the code as it exists in motel business would give 1 unit per 3,000 square feet. So that's almost half as dense as the Southampton Inn. And, I think that in the area, it's, certainly not inappropriate. And in addition, in terms of the restaurant use, that's also a use that the Southampton Inn already has. So it's sort of hard to say that that's an inappropriate use when it's right next door to that exact use. As far as density, and I spoke to the Planning Commission about this, the existing density would yield 76 units on the property, and it's 5 acres. 76 units is really, I think, the minimum that could really work to make this project viable. And as we've discussed and as I've said several times, the point here is to make the historic hotel use viable going into the future, and you need just economically, you need a certain number of rooms in order to do that. I think if the board is inclined to reconsider the density provisions, I would definitely urge it not to go any lower than already exists, because I think it's certainly there's plenty of room on the property to screen that level of development. And it's sort of, a minimal level that can really justify a beautifully developed resort, hotel-type resort that we're talking about. And then just lastly, briefly, in respect to the comments that have been made by some of the Whitefield owners, and I'm not necessarily speaking about their board, who's appeared by Mr. Bregman, but there's been, some objection, I know, by individual owners of Whitefield units. And I wanted to make a couple of just notes for the record. One is that there's been a lot of talk about how Whitefield is residential, and that's certainly true, but Whitefield also does have a commercial element to it, because it rents out, I believe, its music room, and it rents out its property for events with tents and things like that. So there is something of a commercial use going on there as well. So I think it really would be more fair to say that it's a residential or mixed-use residential and commercial. And also, with respect to the layout of Whitefield, I have some photographs that I'd like to distribute to the board. I'm just going to give you. Do you want 5? Pardon?
Are they in packages?
Yes. Okay. I think this is 5. I made extras, but.
Take an extra also.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we get one for the village attorney also?
Of course.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Always looking out for you, Rick.
Thanks.
So the first photo in the set shows the facade of Whitefield's units that are facing the Village Latch property, and I also have this. I don't have a tonight, but maybe I can just put it up here for now. And anybody who wants to look at it, can turn it around in a minute. But so the units that these photos are of are the ones that are closest to the Village Latch property.
There's an easel right. Steve's bringing an easel right now, and that way you can put it over here. That way everybody could see it.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the photos are of these units that are closest to the property, and you can see that it's really their garages that face the Village Latch property, and parking area is adjacent to the Village Latch property. And also, according to the survey, there's about 75 feet between the closest ones and the property line. So, there's a substantial amount of distance. As far as traffic, you have a picture in there, and I'm sure this is familiar to everyone, the site of traffic around the church at Hill Street. If there's, traffic issues existing are obviously a combination of factors, and I think that has to be borne in mind, and the church and the parking for the church certainly being a major one. The last two photos are of what you can see of the Whitefields units from certain parts of the Village Latch, and you can see that really it's just basically the roof line that's visible. So, I think the board, if it has concerns, and I think that Whitefield is a very, has a lot of people living there, and we want to address their concerns as much as possible. I think there's, certainly screening can be a part of this plan going forward, but I wanted to just show you visually that there really is quite a bit of space there, and maybe you can take a visit to that property as well if you're concerned about the impact on them. So that's basically all I have, and I would just ask that, we start the environmental review process, get a sense of what the board wants to look at, and we will move forward and do the studies that are necessary.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak? Yes. Actually, we need to have you come on up to the, I'm sorry. That way it gets recorded for the record. Thank you.
I'm Priscilla Ullman, Whitefield. I just would like to make just two comments as regards the Whitefield renting out our place. We're only allowed 2 times a season, twice, that's it. This summer we had none. Okay? And as far as the garages and facing your project, it's also bedrooms and kitchens, it's not just garages. Okay? Thank you.
All right, thanks. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay. Anybody from the board? Yeah.
Just a question, Nika.
Yes.
You talk about a restaurant, and presumably, I don't know how big a restaurant you're talking about and so on, but it's going to take up space, and there's been talk of this being a spa, so I don't know what facilities constitute or make a spa up. But wouldn't that all, if that were to happen, would that eliminate a lot of the family or some part of the family units? I mean, you say that, how many units did you say could be built here by virtue of the size?
76.
76. Now, if you put a restaurant and then, I don't know what goes in spas, but could you still, if you have a restaurant that requires parking for the employees and the visitors and all that sort of thing, and then you have an enclosed spa area, somewhat like the one in Bridgehampton, I guess, and wouldn't that have to come out of the property available for units?
Well, I don't think so, because under the motel business district, certain accessory uses are allowed, and so I don't think that the restaurant and spa would constitute an independent use. They would be accessory to the hotel use. And as a result, I don't think that would diminish the calculation of land area for the hotel itself. That's my reading of the code. I mean, I'm sure, Rick can weigh in with his opinion on that, but.
I think the biggest issue when it comes to restaurant and spa use and 76 rooms is Department of Health, and it's all water flow, it's flow on the property.
Right. Yeah, now we've been aware of that for a long time. The property actually, I don't mean, are you?
That's okay.
Okay, the property actually has a substantial grandfathered use of 58 units that the health department recognizes. However, that's not enough for what we're envisioning, and but we have had a study done, and again, this can be elaborated as far as part of the environmental review process. But we have had a study done by sanitary engineers, Paul Grosser's firm, and they have determined that it is feasible to have a modified sewage treatment plant on the property, meeting all of the setbacks required under the sanitary code, the county sanitary code. So that would be, I think, would be necessary unless, there's possibly, I don't know what the timing of this is going to be vis-a-vis eventually a village sewage treatment facility. But assuming that that's not an option at the time it's developed, then that it would have to be done with a modified sewage treatment plant on the site.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments about this? Rick, do you have any comments?
I would suggest at this stage, we've had several public hearings. I think we have all the input in terms of comments for and against the zoning amendment. Now, I would suggest that we close the public hearing subject to completion of the secret review process and subject to any comments or recommendations which the Planning Commission might submit.
Okay.
And then we can begin the environmental review process and find out whether our environmental consulting firm needs more information or whether they have sufficient, whatever. But until we start that process, we're not going to know where we're going.
All right, good.
So I would suggest that you make a motion to close the public hearing subject to completion of the secret review process and subject to receipt of any comments or recommendations which the Planning Commission might have.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay. I just wanted to make one comment about density. Okay, you talked about density in the district, and right now it's one room for every 3,000 square feet. And when we went through the village business district master planning process in the zone, there was a recommendation from a consultant who came in that made a recommendation that we change the density for hotel, motel occupancy in the village business district to one room for every 2,000 square feet. And this board took a hard stance on that because we disagreed with that and thought it was too dense, and protected the one room for every 3,000 square feet. So me personally, that wouldn't be an option to lower that density requirement at all. And based on the way the board reacted the last time, I think I could probably speak freely and say that I think most people would not support any reduction in the density. So, okay. All right. Yeah.
Could I ask one?
Yeah. Come on up here. Yeah.
Excuse me. Eric Bregman, Farrell Fritz, representing the board of the Whitefield condominiums. I was a little surprised at closing the hearing because normally the CEQA process is part of the whole hearing process. And I do think that this is, and I was going to speak to Mr. Voorhees, that this is a type 1 action. Doesn't necessarily mean you need an environmental impact statement at all. You can go through that process. But I just wanted to make sure that there's an opportunity for the public to respond to the submissions by...
There will be. There will be.
That was my only
and the whole purpose behind us closing this right now is that now we're handing to our environmental consultants the information that comes from this public hearing, and they'll have it from the Planning Commission so that they can move forward with that. And if we have to open the public hearing up again to respond to questions, and so we'll do all of that stuff.
Okay. I mean, because there can be, a secret process
yeah.
without public hearings.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that was right.
Until we know what we're
Yeah.
going to get from our environmental consultant, there's no way of predicting what can happen. If we get stuff from them, typically we would at least provide an opportunity for written comments.
Well, there seems to be two. I'm not sure the board and what I heard from the applicant are on the same track, so if I may just ask.
Okay.
My understanding of what Ms. Strunk asked for was for the consultant to work out a scope of review. In other words, what are the topics that should be looked at? It's basically, when you go through the EIS process, it's more formal, but not necessarily. But what you should look at traffic, you should look at visual, you should look at noise, whatever that list might be. And then the applicant was going to make a submission regarding that. And I'm not sure if are you guys saying, forgive me, are you board trustees saying that Chick and his firm, Chick Voorhees and his firm, are going to do the environmental analyses? That was different than what I heard from Ms. Strunk.
They will review everything that's been submitted to date and do a preliminary analysis, and then we'll see if they have enough information to come to a conclusion or if they need more information. Until we get that, we don't know what they're going to do. But this is secret review. It's not the public hearing on the zoning amendment.
Okay.
So until we get, Eric, until we hear from, until our environmental planning consultant reviews all this stuff, it's pure speculation where it's going to go.
Okay, we'll see what he says. I don't see how you can say that it's speculation that the traffic needs to be looked at. I mean, the level of looking at it may be one thing.
Eric, when we hear from our environmental consultant, then we'll know where we're going from there. Anything we get from the environmental consultant would be in writing and would become a public record at a public meeting. And typically we would provide an opportunity for comments. But it's not in the context of a formal public hearing on the zoning amendment. It's in the context of secret review.
Thank you.
So until we get something, we don't know.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Hi, Susan Stevenson. I live in the Village. So where is the vote? So the zoning change is still.
No. Here's where we're
So
at.
everyone's mixed up. Sorry, and I'm really mixed up. So could we just have a review?
Let's talk about this.
Okay, I'll sit down, but I would love to know what the state of
where are
affairs
we
is.
at?
Great.
We the Village Latch has submitted an application to change their property
Right.
to the hotel motel zone, of which the master plan from 2000 identifies this property as one of a couple of different properties that should be placed in the hotel motel zone. So what we did is we had a public hearing on their application to move that into the rezoning of this property. We had all the public input on this. We've closed that public hearing now. We're taking all the public information, public input we have from all the 4 or 5 hearings that we've had. We're going to hand that over to our environmental consultant, who will then make a determination as to what needs to be done. That's why Rick says we can't speculate on what he's going to present to us. Then when we get his report, we'll bring it in here. We'll open it up. We'll open it up for public comment, and in some form or another, and then we'll move forward from there.
Mark, I have a question. I mean, the
Okay.
question that I'm asking is, this is purely on the rezoning of that particular
it.
property as it is right now.
It has nothing to do
It
with...
doesn't have to do with what it might become, because we don't know what it might become. So it has to do with what it is exactly now, okay? And then, let's say in a year or two, somebody comes along and says, you know, I'd really like to buy that property, and here's what I want to do. The process has to start all over again, and they have to get approvals. They have to go to the planning board. They have to go through the entire process.
ARB, Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, Department of Health, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's years and years away from
And they have to
anything.
say, oh, here's what I want. I want 90 rooms. No, you can't have 90 rooms, there aren't enough. Okay, I'll take the 76 units. Well, how are you going to lay out the 76 units? Here's what I would like to do, and on top of it I would like a spa and I would like a restaurant. At which point all of that has to be looked at. And maybe they won't get it. So this is just what it is right now. They're asking to be zoned, the way it should be really zoned. I mean, it was said that it should have been zoned. Well, they're operating that way. And they have been for all those years.
Well, there's setback requirements, there's buffering requirements, there's parking requirements, there's Department of Health requirements. There'll be traffic studies that will have to be done, traffic flow. All of that stuff will have to be taken into consideration to evaluate that entire application, if that application ever comes in front of any village board. And so that's why it's you know, they have a conceptual design that came up here, and I think that right there confused the overall issue with it. It was and that's where, you know, that's what we are just taking this one simple step here, that is the rezoning of the place, which, you know, the master plan makes that recommendation. The master plan from 2000 makes that recommendation, and that's what we, the board, are working off of right now. Nothing, you know, pools, spas, restaurants, numbers of units, or any of that stuff. You know, we're not looking at that. That's all for years down the road, I think. So,
you know, those are all very arbitrary recommendations that you put in the presentation. But again, we're not here to vote on whether it's going to be that spa, restaurant, all these things just listed, just the zone of whether to change it to the motel, hotel.
and
I mean, that's all in front of us. I'm not saying either way that's happening, but all that's in front of us is that, not the other.
And I do get concerned about Whitefield, and I do get concerned about the impact, because I've walked over there and I've seen the close proximity that these homes are to, and how do you buffer all it? Those are all great questions that have to be answered at later points in time.
Because it is if you are in that area, it is pretty much a residential area.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm completely opposed to downzoning anything. I realize that there are 2 places that are hotels or inns in that area, but they're also pre-existing or have been given some kind of go-ahead, and so they could continue without a downzoning. And I find the notion of downzoning to be dangerous to the residential owners, and I feel that often they are ignored here. And this might be a good case again. And I would be horrified if I lived in that area and you were downzoning, because I think when someone buys a property, if they're not stupid, they figure out that they have to look at the zoning and see what might happen around where they live. And I've lived in a place where somebody said to me at a dinner party, I'm going to build, you know, X number of condos on some property. And when I got home, I realized that's the exact, on a certain number of acres. And I thought, gee, I live right, right next to that. And I got out of there as fast as I could. And I couldn't. But it just seems to me that there is, just because those places are there and they do function and exist pre-existing, that the downzoning is a dangerous idea. I know that you all have...
You're not downzoning. I mean,
you are downzoning. You're taking a residential area and making it into a hotel-motel district. It can be, call it what you will. I'm calling it downzoning.
Okay, but I'm just telling you that the master plan, it was approved in 2000.
But we have a different master plan, don't we?
No. We do not. The only thing we did was
the village business plan.
Village business. That's all we did, is we did an update to the village business district master plan. The master plan for the village of Southampton calls for these properties right here, and including the Southampton Inn, to be placed in a hotel motel district. And the property owners have the right to request that their property is placed in that zone in accordance with the village master plan. And that's what they have the right to do.
And is the Village Latch right next to the Southampton Inn?
Yes.
Could someone buy both those properties and make a huge place? I mean, I'm worried about that.
Well,
Because
in
once it's the
theory-
hotel motel
Okay,
department, we could have
okay,
something really big.
And so, let's talk about that then. So you have 5 acres with the Village Latch, you have 3 acres with the
But you have
Southampton Inn.
109 plus 50, according to someone here, that's 159 rooms. That's a far cry from whatever.
Yeah, but if somebody's buying the 2 properties and merging them together, I mean, right now, the Southampton Inn has twice as many rooms as they would be allowed to have under the hotel motel district.
Right, but they have them, so that's good.
But that's, and that's part of the reason.
That's part of the problem, too.
Yeah, but that's part of the issue, why the Southampton Inn's not in here asking to be placed into this, because they're already pre-existing non-conforming, whether it's in their current district right now that they're in, or if they were placed in the hotel motel district. If somebody came in and merged the 2 properties and knocked everything down and built, well,
I don't think
They
that's
have
so
less.
unlikely. Huh?
they would have less
They'd
rooms.
have less.
But they would have a lot. They would have 100 rooms, no?
Well, see, you got.
And that, to me, is not Southampton Village. That's all. I'm worried about the
Hey,
zoning.
look, and
And I think that's a legitimate concern.
And the Village Latch and the Terry Cottage are contributing factors in the historic district, and they're identified in the.
But in the original presentation, all of this talk was about the Topping Rose House or the Rose Topping House,
That's
which has 22 rooms,
Mm-hmm.
not 100 and something, not 54, so that
and it's what, 2 acres maybe?
I don't know
It's
exactly.
an acre and a half,
It has
2
a-
acres if
It
that.
has a big parking area and a big
It's a
place
very
in the
it's a
back.
very small piece of property.
Right, but it was a troublesome property too, right?
Right.
Really seriously so.
No, and they
they preserved it.
And they did a
Right, so.
phenomenal job.
Right.
They really did.
But I do have concerns about
And I
the
think-
zoning.
And I think everybody sitting up here has concerns over what ultimately ends up there.
Okay.
Because nobody
I just-
here wants to turn around and see a major hotel
Well,
moved
but
in there.
it's,
One of the things that-
once things get, yes, you can give approval, you can't
it's
control
all-
everything.
And on top of it, it's a hotel motel zone that is a special exception. It's not even a guaranteed. It's not even an as of right use on that property, just because they're in the hotel motel district.
Right, well, we'll see. Thank you. Thanks for answering my question.
No, it would be in front of the
And
ZBA.
that's-
Okay. Eric. Yeah, okay. We're so far out of order, it's just.
I know.
The Rogers book got tossed right out the window here. Let's go for the record. That's right, so it doesn't matter.
You're very kind, I appreciate it. I just want to make clear what I had said last time, because it's a little different, I think, than where you're going. You may disagree, of course, but I just wanted to make clear that when the master plan was adopted, there wasn't any intensive environmental review. Nobody looked at the traffic if this particular, for example, if this particular section was rezoned, right? But now you are potentially taking an action that will allow, I thought it was 79 units max, but 76, 79 units, all right?
76.
76, and will allow a certain height buildings and a certain density and all the rest of it. So I think it is incumbent on you and the Planning Commission to look at the worst case. Not any specifics, I agree, because they could be very different, and somebody might want a spa or might want a bigger spa and fewer units or whatever. Could be, who knows, the permutations and combinations are infinite. But there's a worst case situation, 76 units, such a size spa, what traffic would that generate? That's the environmental review that I think needs to be done. What is the potential for any significant impacts? It's not a situation where you're just saying, well, we're doing something and later on we can look at that, what the environmental impacts of a specific project be. You might have to do that too if it's different or whatever. Yeah. So that's all my suggestion is. And also, I think it was obvious, but I just wanted to say that recommend or request that it be a coordinated review, environmental review with the Planning Commission. You can decide not to have a coordinated review, but it seems to me something you'd probably want to do. I mean, there's
Well,
a
I mean,
formal
the-
process
I mean,
of
the-
coordinating.
The Planning Commission,
The only
Yeah.
agency involved in this action is the Village Board of Trustees.
That's right. The Planning Commission is
That
not
the
taking
sole
any action.
agency under secret. And what you're referring to is a coordinated review. If you mean it in the legal sense, it doesn't apply.
They were going to do an environmental review, so I agree. It's not a formal. They're not taking action in the sense that they're.
The Board of Trustees will be conducting the environmental review through our environmental consultant.
if the Planning Commission has comments towards that, they will be sent to the, our environmental planner.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Anybody else? We're so far out of order here, it doesn't really matter, so, okay, all right, good. Okay, well, thank you for the, public hearing, the comments
Steve,
and
you'll
the
be sending that
discussion.
stuff over to Chick, right?
And,
You'll be sending the stuff notifying Chick, right?
so it's part of the process here, so, great. Okay. Okay. Okay, we've some letters here.
Yep. Okay, the first one is from Dr. Michael Lindeman, DVM. I've been contacted by Tim Cunningham to express my strong concerns about the uncontrolled use of lawn herbicides in Southampton Village. I treated Tim's dog Onyx for lymphoma. Onyx succumbed to his cancer in May 2013. I'm writing to you out of concern for your residents and their pets. I have been informed that herbicides used to reduce the weed content of lawns has been used with high frequency in your village. As a veterinary oncologist, I would like to be sure you're aware of the serious health effects that herbicides can have on people and their pets. The phenol-containing compounds such as 2,4-D are known carcinogens. These compounds greatly increase the risk of developing cancer. These compounds can be absorbed by the skin of any person or animal who walks through the grass. They can also wash into the water supply, including lakes and ponds. I strongly advise you to place strict regulations on the types of chemicals that are allowed to be sprayed and or spread on lawns and gardens. Please do not hesitate to contact me with any questions, as I am interested in educating the public about cancer prevention. Sincerely, Michael Linderman.
Nancy, you're going to speak with Tim on
Actually,
that,
he's actually, Tim Cunningham reached out to all of us, and he actually spoke to me probably 6 months ago. I think the problem here isn't, Tim's concerned about the village right-of-way, because most people, let's take First Neck Lane as an example, most people take on the village right-of-way and they landscape that, and their landscaper fertilizes it, and their landscaper cuts it, and they irrigate it. Even though it's village-owned property, they take care of all that. So we don't really control that. What we do control are our different parks, and all of our parks and village properties are done with environmental products. So, and we're very careful about that. So his thought process on all of this is we went ahead and we created a plastic bag law so that we wouldn't have plastic bags going into our waterways, but we're not doing anything about poisons that are being put on lawns that are affecting people and pets. And so his thought was, why can't we outlaw that, even if it's just on the village right-of-way? Because there are people who are walking down the street, there are people who are pushing their baby carriages, there are people who, and you don't know, they usually put these little poison signs out when they go and spray, but there are dogs that are going up on the village right-of-way, and then they go home and eat their paws. And so his concern is, we're poisoning the animals, we're affecting our children, we're doing all of this, and we need a law to tell people. There are pet-friendly fertilizers, believe it or not. So his thing was, please, I know ChemLawn probably will not be happy, and all those companies that come in, that put product on lawns, but you know what? He's right. I mean, that's the way I would feel that way too. It's not their property, it's our property. And if we see an extra weed here or there, I don't really particularly care. I'd rather have it healthy. I'd rather have healthy environment than to have a nicer lawn.
Well, Nancy, you may want to look at all the use of the pesticides.
Yeah.
Village property or not, because all that migrates. And it
Right.
migrates fairly quickly because we have a very sandy soil, and
Right.
even
I mean, I think it's something we do need to look into.
without a doubt.
So I'm in
Without a
favor of
doubt.
looking into it. Obviously, Michael, you're in favor of it. And I
So
mean,
you guys
this
wanna
year I
work on
changed
that?
landscapers. Sure, I'll work on it. I changed landscapers, and they said, we're going to get in here, we're going to fertilize. And I said, wait a minute here, I don't want you to fertilize my property because I'm afraid of my dog. And I said to him, if we're going to do this at all, there are pet friendly. And he said, all right, let me look into it. And he went and he investigated it. And that's what he ended up using. And do I have weeds? Yeah, I have some weeds, and I don't particularly care. But I'd rather have my dog healthy than to have, a greener lawn or... and I think most people who have animals would feel that way.
But it's more than the pets.
I know, that's true. I'm just saying that's
No,
step
it's-
one, because that's more of a
There's
human...
a step above the pets.
Yeah, no,
and
I know
it's
that,
the
and
use
that's-
of insecticides. A lot of
know.
people spray their
I
lawns
know they do.
for everything from grubs to mosquitoes.
I mean, it's the vanity of everybody having a perfect lawn. And I'm in the same camp with you, Nance. I
Right.
would, my dog around my backyard, I'll sacrifice
Right.
the pristine perfection of the lawn to make sure my dog is not exposed to harsh chemicals.
But it goes beyond, as Michael said, it's going into
that's-
our water supply.
But
It's
everybody's
going-
backyard, it's the larger picture, yeah.
Right.
I mean, even with the irrigation, when we had the statistics of how much water we use just to irrigate in the Southampton Village alone, I mean, it's pretty disgusting. So that, I mean, you can go crazy with this as far as where to go after, because especially when you apply these things to your lawn, and it's a double insult, because then you use all the water to irrigate it, and it's washing into the runoff. So all the water is being wasted, and what's being replaced is contaminated water, basically.
I just ask you to do one thing in your pursuing the subject. I realize that the condominium project that I live in on Cooper's Farm, that we sprayed for ticks this year, and I think we did it the year before, and they made a big deal out of how bad, ticks are going to ravage the earth. And I'm now wondering, are we spraying something that's killing the ticks and running the risk of doing a hell of a lot more damage than that, And so if you could find out, are tick sprays something that we should avoid like the plague?
I think there are alternatives to tick sprays, by the way.
Yeah, well,
So,
I'd love it if you could look into it. Stop it in one location.
Even when we were talking to Suffolk County Water Authority about the wells,
yeah.
and they were having difficulty
Right.
locating a spot.
Mm.
So maybe that's some data that we should incorporate into our research.
Yep.
I mean, it could be a whole research based on chemicals used and the whole how we irrigate, and
Right.
I mean, again, for a perfect lawn, what's the true cost of that?
Although I will say, I did put a sprinkler system in this year, and the amount of water that I used was significantly less than what I've used in the past, because I used to drag the hose out there, put the sprinkler on, it would be going. I'd go turn it off maybe an hour later, I'd run it over here. That's what I was doing, and really, the sprinkler goes off for a short period of time in zones. And I used a lot less. So I don't know how much you're using with a sprinkler system. I mean...
Oh no, we found that out at 4 o'clock in the morning when
yes,
the water pressure dropped down to Southampton Hospital, and all the alarms started going off, and the firemen had to roll out of bed.
I mean, it's
It was
All the
all the
sprinklers
sprinklers in
going
the
off at
estate
4 in the
areas
morning.
going off at the same time. So
that's
yeah.
pretty major concern.
So, all right, great.
Get a record there.
second communication
All
here.
right, from Lung Cancer Research Foundation. On behalf of the Lung Cancer Research Foundation, I would like to request the date of Sunday, August 10th, 2014, for LCRF's 9th Annual Strides for Life 3-mile fun run walk around Lake Agawam. As you know, this event circles Lake Agawam, beginning and ending at the Cultural Center. In addition, the foundation holds a children's 50-yard dash on the grass across from Veterans Hall. We would also like to request the use of Veterans Hall 2 days prior on Friday, August 8th, and again on race day. This event has special meaning for lung cancer patients and their families, as it was the first event of its kind in the country to raise funds for lung cancer research. LCRF's Run Walk event has raised over $2.6 million for critical lung cancer research. I have enclosed a list of research scientists who have received funding from LCRF over the past 5 years, all as a result of the funds raised from Strides for Life. LCRF thanks the Village of Southampton for its ongoing support in helping to raise awareness and funding for lung cancer. Lung cancer is still the leading cause of cancer death in the U.S., and funding lags dramatically behind other cancers. We hope you will grant us permission once again to host a special event in Southampton. Sincerely, Clifford Gerard.
You guys here for this? Yeah. Okay, I kind of thought so. Come on up.
There you go.
Okay, but, I mean, this is a great event. We've hosted this for quite a few years, and a long time now. And we support it. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Lung Cancer Research Foundation to hold its annual Stride for Life 3-mile run walk in accordance with their letter dated September 20th, 2013.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Thank you.
Simple. Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Have a good night,
You
everyone.
too, then. Third one is from Sally Spanberg. I was surprised and disappointed to have recently learned that you may be trying to obtain community preservation funds, CPF monies, to demolish a historic structure within a historic district in Southampton Village, specifically the Dosher property at 37A South Main Street. First, are you aware of the property's significance? And second, CPF monies is meant to be spent on preservation, not on demolition. Dr. David Horace Halleck, 1821 to 1887 of Southold, where the Halleck family of Long Island originated, was called to Southampton Village while practicing medicine near where he grew up in Laurel. At the time, Southampton Village was without a doctor. Upon his arrival to the village, he was deemed the village's first doctor and bought the property at 37-37A South Main Street from Mr. and Mrs. Henry Reeve for $1,800 in 1866. At that time, it stretched from South Main Street to Lake Agawam and encompassed 3 acres. He built himself a house and barn which survives at what is now number 37. He remained in the village until his death in 1887. The property then passed to his son George Horace Halleck, 1845 to 1921. Around the turn of the century, George built a second house at the rear of the property on Lake Agawam, now known as 37A. The architecture of the second house closely matches that of the main house. The main house can be seen from South Main Street. The rear house can be seen from Agawam Park and the public parking lot behind George Lane. The Halleck family was among the wealthiest and most influential in the Southampton Village. Although the estate is now subdivided, it survives intact in its entirety, with all 3 original buildings dating between 1866 and 1900. It has been mentioned that 37A once operated as a brothel. If this is true, it didn't operate for more than 10 years of its more than 100 years as a residence, certainly not long enough to diminish or erase its architectural integrity and association with a prominent local family. As you know, in 2005, the town of Southampton and the village of Southampton jointly purchased the property at 37A South Main Street, Southampton Village, with CPF money from the Dosher family. The original intention was to redesign the land to provide Lake Agawam Park with expanded and enhanced recreation and related amenities, with the existing residents included in that overall revisioning. Even today, that sounds like a marvelous idea, but now, 8 years later, no plans for the redevelopment of the property have materialized, and the house is rumored to be in terrible condition. According to Member Hattrick, you may now be considering obtaining CPF money to pay for its demolition. The agreement between the town and the village in 2006 required the village to maintain, manage, and take good care of the premises. If the building can be saved, then CPF money can be used for that purpose. If, however, the building is not able to be saved, then the village should pay for its removal itself, since you are the one that let it fall into such a state of disrepair. More importantly, you should leave the CPF alone. Respectfully submitted, Sally Spanberg.
Well, I'd like to correct one comment on here, is that when the property was purchased in 2005, the property was purchased with the intent that the house was to be demolished, and the property was, and I've had many discussions with Mary Wilson, and we've tried several ways to see how we could use that property, but the problem is the way it was purchased. You can't use it for rec halls, you can't use it for office space, you can't use it for a wide variety of things. So it's basically an empty building sitting on the property. At one point in time, we had the Parks Department that ran out of the building, and the town told us to stop using that. So that's why it's sitting empty.
Actually, it was in bad, well, the main
It was in
building
bad
was in
shape.
bad, when we got it, it was in bad shape. I mean,
It was in
I
awful
was
shape.
hopeful that we could restore it as well, but if we can't use it for anything,
Yeah,
then that's one of the reasons why it's sitting there empty.
yeah. We had,
I mean, maybe somebody might want to buy it and move it off the property.
I wouldn't. So, okay. All right.
Resolutions, item 1, resolved that the reading of the minutes for the work session of November 26, 2013 be dispensed with, that those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Yes, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 2, resolved that the claims for the warrant dated December 12, 2013, totaling $360,241.16, warrant 10 general fund, $649, warrant 13 trust fund, $39,330.93, warrant 7 capital reserve fund, and the village payrolls for the period from November 28, 2013 to December 12, 2013 be ordered and approved. Can I have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Item 171 Hill LLC, January rent $4,774 for the building inspector's office, A-plus technology and security, remote camera system upgrade for the schools, for the police department $1,800, A&E Estates tree stump removal $2,050, Aldo Andrioli engineering fees for November and December $6,500, Bartlett Tree Experts tree work at 25 Jobs Lane $2,796. Page 2, CSE Employee Benefit Fund, December insurance premium, $22,310.45. Page 4, Carl and Jack's DPW uniforms, $4,086.50. Gas Productions, going on to page 5, November video services, $1,536.65. Corzini Asphalt payment on a Safe Routes to School grant, $14,004.54. Page 6, Creative Visual Systems, science supplies for the Highway Department, $3,958.72. Page 7, Eberhard Nurseries, 39 Street Trees, $2,742. EMT Government Accounting Services for November, $1,173. Page 8, Fundamental Business Services, $3,384. Parking permit for September of 2013. Page 9, Hampton IT Experts, computer work for the Village Hall, $1,135. IT experts again twice for the building inspector, $1,215, and for PD, $3,240. There's hardware, going on to page 11, November hardware supplies, $1,840.71. Johnson Electrical Construction, traffic light maintenance for November, $1,275. Page 13, LIPA payments, $3,053.05 for PD, $2,843.30 for the fire department, $6,743.27 for the streetlights. Page 15, Messiano Consulting, grant writing services for November, $2,242.50. Mobile fleet lights for the ambulance vehicles, $1,220.35. More Medical Corp. ambulance supplies, $1,237.95. Morgan Auto Supply parts for the garage for November, $1,736.88. Page 16, Patricia Munn Medicare reimbursement, $1,710. Nassau Diagnostics, 2 payments, one for 47 physicals, $11,380, and 4 physicals for $1,185, both for the fire department. Page 17, Nextel Communications, November phone bill, $1,384.58. 2 payments to Norman Carras Contracting for the LSSTC grant, $70,289 and $37,291.06. Page 18, Office of State Controller, October fines, $14,970.24. Page 19, Pitney Bowes, 2 payments, one for the Village Hall for postage, $2,400, and the court, $1,000. Page 20, Priority Dispatch, maintenance agreement for Police Department, $1,385. Professional State Care, lawn maintenance for Aldrich Lane, $4,500 for the season. Page 22, Robinson & Robinson Esquire, Sable Kearns versus the ARB legal fees, $1,080. RoboView, computer equipment for the new Tahoe for the PD, $7,311. Page 23, South Shore Fire and Safety, fire hoses for the fire department, $2,647. Page 24, Squires Holden, Halsey Neck Drainage Study, 4,200. Civil Carpet and Linoleum, DPW Carpet, 3121. TJ's Transmission, rebuild the transmission on PD Tahoe, 2006, 1198. Page 25, Vince Toomey, legal fees for November, $4,314.05. Legal fees to Toomey, Latham, and Shea for the Metro PCS settlement, $1,944.62. United Metro Energy, 3,000 gallons of gas, $8,321.68. Verizon, phone bill for November, going on page 26, $3,648.50. VFIS Benefits Division, the balance on the Fire Department LoSAP, $2,343.40. Next warrant is a capital reserve warrant.
Can I just ask a
I'm
question?
sorry. Yep.
On page 12, page 24 of 29, Squires and Holden, 4,200. You said that was for the Halsey Neck Lane study?
The drainage, for the drainage system.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Capital reserve warrant. First item is coastal fire systems, fire department boots, $1,752.41. High-tech fire and safety, fire department boots and gear, $4,118.52. Island Tech Services, fire department computers, $4,456. Motorola Solutions, radios and equipment, $25,989. And Motorola Solutions, computer equipment for the chief vehicle, $3,015. Further discussion?
Actually, I just wanted to say one thing we did at the A-plus Technology and Security. This is the one that hooks us into the school system, right? Chief? Just wanted to get everybody to be familiar with this.
Basically, we can look at all the different rooms in the schools.
Yeah.
Schools notify us when they have a problem. Dispatchers pull it up on, it's called like a multiplex. And they can actually, they're going to load maps so that the guys will actually know, like we'll have a map of the school. So if there's anything that's going on there, we'll be able to, the dispatchers will be able to see it. Eventually it's supposed to wind up on the laptop in the supervisor's vehicle.
So right now, this is just the dispatcher will be able to see, let's say worst case scenario, active shooter in the school.
Right, what room they're in.
The dispatcher in the room will be able to pull that up, communicate with the police officers coming onto the scene where they see an active shooter within the school.
Right, and it doesn't have to be something that serious even, but that's one of the worst
That's why I
case.
said worst case scenario. And so.
Is that a live feed, or is it doesn't the school activate something for you to see it, or vice versa?
No,
or
we can just click it on, but we have so much to monitor that
you wouldn't be monitoring on a regular basis until they call you.
Yeah,
and
they
say,
would
"We
call
got
us and say,
something."
hey, we got something going on, and we'll
Right.
Okay.
turn it on and
Then
look
you
at
click
it.
and okay.
And this actually, this whole process actually came out of a post-Sandy Hook evaluation with the school systems out here on the East End and the police departments, and it's one of the recommendations. And from a technology standpoint, our department is ahead of everyone else out here. It allowed us to do this at a relatively low price to provide a great service to the local school district.
Yeah, we were lucky because we had the same technology the school had. They actually are a little newer than ours, but that's okay. And it still works, you know. Why fix it if if it's not broken, right?
That's right.
I see you comment on our next budget coming up.
No, that's not really something that's on the top of the list.
Yeah.
But basically, you're right. And, you know, we, myself and Lieutenant Mole were on one of the subcommittees for those things. And the best we had at the time really was that there was 800 megahertz radios. And we don't have 800 megahertz in the village. We're not part of that system. So
Right.
it really didn't help us too much. So, you know, we're a little behind, but you're always a little behind.
Well, actually, I want to, because I remember the meetings, the task force you're talking about, Mayor. We went to those and with the chief, and I think it's a good testament for our people to know that live here in our school district and in the village that, as you just pointed out, the school system already had, thankfully, in place a very good technology in conjunction with ours. So we're already ahead of. There were so many groups that were there that, unfortunately, aren't up to par technologically speaking to implement what we did.
I mean, like the school has an electronic key system that we have now. You know, we've had it, but you know, it's you know, just much. It's really good. And
I do want to point out, I remember a big point some people brought up was that, that's why I asked about the live feed thing, because if some people question whether the police, Big Brother is watching, that's the thing. You're not actively watching what's going on in the school. You now have the ability to look inside the school when you're asked to
we
because
can,
of something.
but we have enough to do.
Yeah, of course. Realistically speaking, it's not on the top of your list.
Right. I mean,
But the whole point of implementing that was that
Right.
in the event of severe emergency.
and I mean, they can always shut us off if they think we're abusing the privilege and just turn it on when it's necessary.
Right.
But
I think it's important for school
ideally,
people to know that.
ideally, obviously, we want to see what was going on. And, you know, we kind of had to sit down and kind of tell them what our tactics were going to be so that we could get the system to work the way they needed it to work, like what their expectations of us were, and really what they should expect from us, and it was good. It worked out well.
But it's, you know, I feel very happy in the next component is being able to take this technology onto the laptops in the cars. So if somebody's rolling up onto the scene, in theory, they would be able to see what's going on inside the school if there's an emergency call.
Yeah, I mean, really, without getting into the tactics in this forum, you know, you're going to have a command post, and you're going to be able to watch what's going on from out in the parking lot of the school, say, inside the school from the police car, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
So
So it's a
money
great,
well spent.
very, very well spent. So it's great. Thanks, Chief. And no further discussion there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 3, resolved that the Board of Trustees approves the following holiday schedule for 2014. Martin Luther King's birthday, Monday, January 20th. President's Day, Monday, February 17th. Memorial Day, Monday, May 26th. Independence Day, Friday, July 4th. Labor Day, Monday, September 1st. Columbus Day, Monday, October 13th. Veterans Day, Tuesday, November 11th. Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, November 27th. Day after Thanksgiving, Friday, November 28th. Half day for Christmas Eve, Wednesday, December 24th. Christmas Day, Thursday, December 25th. 1 half day for New Year's Eve, Wednesday, December 31st. New Year's Day, Thursday, January 1st, 2015. And 2 floating holidays be used during the calendar year. Can I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village administrator to sign a lease extension with 71 Hill LLC through June 30th, 2014, with an option to occupy month to month after June 30th, 2014, should the need arise, for the building inspector's office at a monthly rent of $4,774. Can I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second?
Discussion. This is, hopefully, we'll be able to move the building inspector's office over to the second floor with the renovation sometime in 2014. This is a $139 increase from the current rent, which is basically just under 3%. All in favor?
Aye.
And last item, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following payments from the capital reserve account, subject to permissive referendum. Coastal Fire Systems, $1,752.41 from the Fire Equipment Reserve. High Tech Fire and Safety, $4,118.52 from the Fire Equipment Reserve. Island Tech Services LLC, $4,456 from the Fire Facilities Reserve. And Motorola Solutions, $29,004 from the Fire Equipment Reserve. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussions items? Our work session for December falls on Christmas Eve, December 24th. Typically, we cancel the last work session if there's a need to.
You don't want to spend Christmas Eve
Oh,
with
come
us,
on,
do you?
man.
We
What's the
leave
matter
at
with
12.
you? Business. You gotta do what you gotta do.
There you go.
Rick does. Well, you don't. Okay. All right. So I'll make a motion to cancel the December 24th, 2013 work session.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Okay, we're going to Bill's house.
There you go.
Bill's house, yeah.
Right after we spray for ticks.
At least when I get any ticks now.
We'll go outside, right? Bill?
Bring your dog.
That's it.
The size of Bill's family, I don't think there's any room.
Yeah, that's
right. So.
Just wanted to talk to you, let you know, we got the new rates in for the health insurance for 2014, and It was a very, very modest increase, which was great. The single plan is going from 767.98 to 771.54, so 0.4% increase.
That's unbelievable.
And the family is going from 1686.56 to 1714.19, is a 1.6% increase, which is great.
Wow. That is unbelievable.
We had actually budgeted in the current budget an 8% increase effective January 1st, so it's a nice pickup. We can use this year. All right, the last item is Ellen's Run. They are looking to do their event as usual on August 17th, 2014. Run is basically 6 a.m. to noon.
It's over by the hospital.
We do the same route every year.
Yeah, it's basically up Carrick down South Main, down Gin, and then plans to, Old Town to hospital.
Same loop. It's the same one always.
Did they send it to you though? Oh, okay. All right, this is the same.
It's the same one. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Ellen's Run in accordance with their letter dated December 4th, 2013.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I just had to, wanted to add, there's a renewal agreement with the CSEA Employee Benefit Fund, and it has to do with a change in their plan. Their, they changed the plan because we had, health?
We had a
yeah.
benefit in there for paying X amount of dollars per month for an annual physical for each employee. But now due to the change in the health care, that's included in the regular plan, so we're removing that provision from this benefit plan, which, actually reduces our rates, which is another good thing.
Yeah, it's $162.52 reduction. So I've got the amendment here. I actually have to get a resolution from the board authorizing me to sign.
So we need a motion authorizing the mayor to sign this benefit plan.
The renewal agreement with the between the Village of Southampton and CSEA Employee Benefit Fund.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Thanks. Okay. Rich, you got anything?
Yeah, I want to take a moment to, speaking of bags, the plastic bag ban that Nancy mentioned earlier. I just want to recognize the SAVE Committee. They were recognized up in Schenectady on Tuesday, as was the village, for passing the plastic bag ban. The SAVE Committee was recognized for its diligence in pursuing the legislation, and of course this village of Southampton was recognized as being the first municipality to actually enact a ban. 5 people went up to present from the committee: Susan Dubner, Linda Talty, Jim Nealon, Mackie Finity, and Roger Blau, to basically present what we did here amongst 32 entries. 8 were chosen, and what I want to do is just read from the DEC, the press release here, that and I know the press is going to have a story, so I don't want to take too much steam, and I know the SAVE Committee will come and present to us, but at least I wanted to recognize them and read this DEC press release. The DEC recognizes 8 innovative programs working to sustain New York's resources and strengthen the economy. Winners announced at the 10th Annual Environmental Excellence Awards celebration. Now in its 10th year, DEC established the awards program in 2004 to recognize those who improve and protect New York's environment and contribute to a more healthy economy by advancing sustainable practices involving creative partnerships. To date, DEC has recognized 52 award winners. A statewide review committee made up of 20 representatives from the public and private sectors provide DEC advice in selecting the award winners from an array of competitive applications received in May. The winners included a village enacting an ordinance banning plastic shopping bags, us, the first commercial-scale urban rooftop greenhouse, a small and unique environmental education center empowering students to be future environmental leaders, a high-tech sustainable data center, a county implementing an innovative and comprehensive green infrastructure program, a statewide post-flood emergency stream intervention program, a small business that is leading the nation in biomass heating systems, and a unique and dynamic environmental education center and water reclamation facility. And then it goes on to describe, but the Southampton Advocates for the Village Environments, SAVE, Suffolk County, explains what it is, which is the small volunteer committee in the Village of Southampton led an effort to enact a reusable shopping bag program, the first municipal program to prohibit single-use plastic grocery-sized shopping bags. The Village of Southampton has set an example for municipalities and businesses across New York. Through a successful campaign that enlisted support from retailers and the entire village community, the village's ordinance has received a 98% compliance rate by retailers, restaurants, and stores, which translates into the elimination of at least 110,000 plastic shopping bags annually. The streets and beaches of the Village of Southampton are no longer littered with plastic bags, and the quality of the local marine waters has improved significantly. Kudos to the SAVE Committee for working for the past 5 years at the creation of Mayor Epley. They've done many good things for the community. This obviously is one of the larger and most recognized, and part of, and the competition was severe. I mean, they're up against private, institutions, large corporations, universities. So it's a big award. It's a big recognition for them and the village, and the fact that it recognizes high up is a feather in their cap. So I thank all the members of the SAFE Committee and the Village Board and the residents, because again, also what they do, part of this, them being recognized for this award, is not just what they've done for the village, but it's also their outreach program, how they go out to other communities and educate. And that's what, whether everybody's aware, Roger and Mackie and the board members of the SAFE Committee actively go out and educate other municipalities. They do other towns on Long Island. They've been up in Westchester communities. So that's one of the qualifications and why they were accepted for this award, is because in large to what's already been done and their participation level, but also the outreach program. So again, they will be here in a future meeting to discuss what actually entailed and show the PowerPoint, but it was a very arduous process they went through to get to this, and it began in May. So again, congratulations to them. And then with that, since we're not going to be meeting on Christmas Eve, I do want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And again, I thank all the workers of Southampton Village for making it a beautiful place. Obviously, the accolades I get over and over, how beautiful it looks. And I know that the DPW and departments had a shortened work schedule to get everything up to snuff for all the parades and polar bear plunge coming this weekend. So again, I thank all the workers of the village for all they do, the departments, first responders, and everybody have a happy and healthy holiday season.
Okay.
Mike?
Well, I certainly would like to thank all the workers in the village, because the village looks spectacular.
Best
It really does. The lights and everything, and I'd urge everybody to take a moment and especially towards the evening when it's dark, walk through the village, because it's pretty impressive. And they all done a great job. And have a good holiday season.
Nancy?
I just wanted to add another thing. Roger has sent out correspondence, obviously, Roger Blau, who's on the SAVE Committee, about their award. But also, another thing that I'm not sure how whether or not the public is fully informed on this, but I know that South Thrifty Drug has taken different periods of time to collect unused medicines. It can be aspirin. It can be, when the date on the medicine is outdated, and you want to get rid of it, and most people throw it in the garbage. And the problem is that it's going. We, as everyone knows, we're all on well water. We're on Suffolk County well water, and some of those prescriptions are going into our water supply, and it can be dangerous. And so there are different areas. I know, is the police department up and running yet?
Mhm.
Yeah, the chief is here. There are drop-off points, and there is a box in the police department. So when you know that your prescription is, you didn't use up all your pills, and you're never going to use that pill again, and the expiration is outdated, don't throw it in the garbage. Put a little Ziploc bag and gather them all up, and then at some point you can go over there and empty them all in there, and you're just going to save the water supply, because that's a real problem that we have to face in the future. And it makes sense. So I just want to mention that. And the other thing is, I think the village looks the best it has ever looked, and I thank all of the workers in the community. They were really working hard to get this done before Thanksgiving, because we had the tree lighting that weekend.
Yeah.
And I think they did a great job. And I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, and we won't see you before the new year, so we'll see you in 2014, and have a really good one, but most importantly, stay safe.
Thanks. Bill?
Charlie, don't show up on the 24th. Or Chief. Merry Christmas to everybody. One interesting thing, just talking to John Brostowski today, and it is amazing how many leaves get put on the sides of roads, and streets get blocked virtually.
Yeah.
The other day I was down seeing Jim McEntee, who lives at the corner of Lee and Hetty Creek, and I looked down, and the next door neighbor had put leaves, and half the street was blocked. And it's just funny, he's saying, oh God, when I get out of here I got to call John. And so Jim and I are out on his porch just chatting, and all of a sudden there goes a village truck going by. And he says, isn't that one of yours? And I said, oh, by God, it is. And when I went out, they'd already taken 2/3 of the pile away. It was really blocking the road. It was unbelievable. But anyhow, it's a huge undertaking. And again, we're not going to try and count the leaves. We're just going to count our blessings and call it a day. Best to all.
And, yeah, I just wanted to, the tree lighting was fantastic. We've got
Yeah, some side thing going on
side
there at
thing,
it.
yes, we got engaged there, so, yeah. And all the fire departments for their participation, we're grateful for their participation in the ambulance departments.
They did a great
And
job.
they did an incredible job, they really did.
North Sea won.
They did.
And their float was the best. I mean, it really was. It was
Yeah.
really, really
And the,
so good.
And the high school kids came and sang, and they did a great job, and so it was a really an incredible evening. And just as I always say, that shop locally and support the local businesses, and we're putting a lot of time and effort into the lights and trying to make the place attractive to get people here. And we have to, if you don't like to see the empty stores, we need to come out and support the local businesses. And I can't say that enough over and over again, especially in this time. You've got to support the local businesses. We have Polar Bear Plunge on Saturday morning, 10 o'clock. Get there a little bit early. All of us, so you get credit for all of us going in. Okay? All you have to do is stick a foot in the water. Okay,
You can
right,
wear
Bill?
boots even.
Yeah, there you go. Even a finger.
An index finger.
An index
It's gonna be
finger in
cold,
the
so-
water,
Yeah.
and yes, and it's and we get credit for it and stuff, and it's a nice donation. So it's a great article in the Southampton Press this week about the Polar Bear Plunge, and how many people were helped by it and stuff. So
10 years old.
Oh, that's good.
yeah, 10 years old. And I remember getting Mayor Romanowski calling me up saying, hey, I need you to go meet me at Cooper's Beach on Saturday morning. Didn't tell me what it was about. And then I found out what it was about. So, yeah. But it's been a lot of fun. 10 years. So.
Are you dressing up?
I am.
Mm-hmm.
I am.
So we get to, we won't ask you.
You can.
You can ask me, I
break a
can
good
find out.
There you go. There you go.
We won't
So,
upstage
yeah.
you, I can guarantee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So, it'll be fun. It's gonna
When's the
be
wedding?
fun. And well, my oldest son's getting married June 21st, and then my middle one who got engaged is going to be November 29th.
Mhm.
So, yeah, 2 weddings next year.
It's going to be a
Can you
busy
just
year.
backtrack to the tree lighting for a second, just that they're planning again to have it next year on the
On-
same Saturday
On,
versus
on November
moving into December.
29th,
Yep.
the date of my son's wedding.
Is it really?
Is it?
Oh, wow.
So,
Oh, that's the Saturday after that.
yes, so it'll be interesting.
Somebody's gonna have to move, either the tree lighting or the wedding, I don't know which one.
Maybe we could do it Friday night.
It's, the wedding's right
But then
down
we'll
over
have the
there.
rehearsal dinner.
Right,
You
exactly.
can do both.
Do both.
We can do both. That's what I'll do. You know. Hey, I'm already married. No, it's in the afternoon wedding and stuff, so before a couple of hours before the tree lighting, so it'll be good.
Everybody can go over there after.
There you go. Exactly.
Mhm.
So, but we wish everybody a healthy, happy Christmas and New Year's, and hopefully we don't have to come back. Chief, do you have anything you wanted to say? Okay. All right, so with that being said, we have a second public comment section. Nobody from the public would like to make a comment, so I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second? All in favor?
Second?
Aye.
Aye.